This is Bubbly, Alex and Laura, and I am Alex Bubble. And in these 15-minute talks, where we call them ego talks, my lovely wife Laura Bubble interviews me on any topic and how it's related to the ego, and that's why we have it set as ego talks. Please subscribe right here and give us ideas of the topics, or to my wife anyways, because I don't know the topics in advance. You see, this is an ad hoc. Right now I don't know anything about the interview, so there is surprise fully for me and for you. So Laura Bubble, please hit me.
Today, Ego Talks are going to be about marriage.
Marriage. Ooh, okay.
What Ego Talks about marriage?
Wow, what a deep topic. What does ego talks about marriage? Are we talking about the men ego, obviously, because it's
Yes.
interviewing me? You know, I think the general consensus about the ego of men nowadays is that getting into a marriage is sort of a getting into a trap, or we've heard words such as, okay, your life is over. Some people even say prison, that you have no freedom, in those terms. I don't know if that's always been the conversation. It is the conversation now in my life that I hear. I don't know if 200 years ago men used to say that, the ego of men, but it's certainly the truth today. Has my ego talked about it like that? I think so. When I was married before, I had that conversation in my head constantly, where I was blaming my ex-partner, that I don't like, that I'm in prison and I don't feel good and I'm not happy. I would blame the marriage on it. So because I wasn't finding satisfaction in who I was and what I did, right, as a man, it's easy to blame it on your marriage if you are in a marriage. And I did that perfectly so. My marriage was the problem for everything. And whether the marriage was the problem or not, or I should rephrase that, the problem was not in the marriage. The problem was that I hadn't found the right person, and I hadn't found myself. And so going into a marriage from an ego point of view is not going to help at all. This is one side, okay? So this is one side where the ego blames a marriage that or blames it as a reason why you don't feel good, because it's a prison, you don't have freedom, my wife is always complaining, my wife is always doing this. So it's an excellent way for the ego, for the man's ego, to project out and attack the woman, in this case, the marriage and the woman.
And why do you think women are afraid of marriage? Or why?
Men or women?
What men think, women think about marriage?
Oh, that's an interesting one. What men's ego? Well, one thing that crosses our minds and it comes in conversations, and it is driven by the ego, is that women will come in and take advantage of us. Okay? So,
Okay.
Could be financial advantage, could be that you want me only for your self-advantage in time, right? Like, I don't have time for myself or for my friends, right? So she always wants me just for herself, and I don't have any freedom. Those are the two big ones that come in that men talk about, and it's definitely coming up from the ego perspective. Now think about it. You're gonna take all my money. Well, how is that not an ego? If you love someone, that shouldn't even cross your mind, right? Like, it's insane comment to have in your mind about the person you're gonna live with. If you're not willing to share everything you got, both from man's perspective and a woman's perspective, you don't go into that marriage, right? When it comes to time, if you're feeling stressed and overwhelmed, just saying it's my wife's fault, that's not a solution. On the other hand, if you do need time for yourself, to be by yourself or with hobbies or friends, it's an easy conversation with your other half, right? Not a reason to listen to the ego and attack, which is what we love to do. This is what we think about, what women think about marriage. But just to add something, if I may, on the first question, because I didn't quite finish it. Another way the ego thinks about marriage overall, a beautiful way that illustrates the ego, is that if I get married, it'll fix all my problems.
How?
Okay? So the one side I described is where the ego thinks, oh, I'm gonna go in prison and that's the reason of my misery. It's really interesting. It has that perspective, and then on the other side, it could have the perspective of, that is very common to say, okay, I'm unhappy and I don't feel satisfied, but if I get in a marriage, if I get married, I'll be happy. The marriage will make me happy. That is a almost universal thing that I see throughout the world, and I fell for it the first time I got married. Because you see, the ego always makes you unhappy, right? That's the purpose of the ego. Your ego is not your friend. It constantly chats about why you're not good enough, why you have to worry about the future, so all sorts of drama in your mind, right? And it gives you these lies that, oh, well, once I find the perfect person, then, and I get married, and maybe I have kids and whatever, and family, then I will be happy. Finally, out of marriage, then I'll be happy. That's what the ego thinks, and you get into a relationship hoping that they will fix what's inside you, hoping that they'll give you that missing part, hoping to fill that big gap that's in almost every one of us. That's called that empty self that we are supporting, the ego. And let me tell you something right then and there, or like give it to you straight. Marriage or relationship is not gonna fill the emptiness inside you if that's why you're getting in it. Meaning, I'm unhappy, a relationship or marriage will fix it. If that's why you're getting into one, it's not gonna make you happy. That's guaranteed. The excitement about this new person is gone quickly, right? Because it's a new person. No, I don't know anything about them. But at some point that moves on, and you know what's left? Your ego again. So the part that you're not happy with, it's there. It was just covered by strong physical emotions. You're attracted to that woman or man, depending on the relationship. And so for a time, the ego was masked. Like the movie The Mask, the ego was well masked, and it seemed like you were not there and you were happy. And you thought that's what love is, right? This exciting feeling of, I want to see that person and I'm physically attracted. You think that's what love is because for a moment, the ego is gone and you actually feel good because the ego is masked. You have physical emotions towards that person. But they're temporarily, like any physical emotion, it cannot last forever, they're temporarily. So as soon as they're gone and you get to know the person, okay, that's not interesting anymore, the ego comes up. And you know what it does? It starts blaming the other person for all your problems you've had all your life.
Instead of blaming your mother, your someone else,
your
sister,
yeah.
It's another girl in your life.
Well, I wouldn't say blaming anybody. You have to look inside and say, wait, this doesn't make sense. This talks in my mind, projecting now into my marriage. My marriage is not the problem, the relationship is not the problem. I am the problem, meaning that noise in my head, right? And resolve it by looking into it and seeing that it is nothing. Nothing cannot be logically resolved. You can only drop it. The ego is a lie. And the best way to deal with lies is stop believing in them.
Okay, I have this question. Why the ego makes men choose women like their mothers? Is it true? Is it the ego or this is something normal? How does the ego choose a wife that a woman to become his wife? Does the ego choose it or who?
I don't. They might be two different questions, but they could be they are very related. On the first question, do you choose a wife as your mother? I think there might be some truth to that because if you are asleep, and what I mean by asleep is not physically asleep, if you're following your dream here, right, which is very much built by your parents, right? the dream is going to have that module of a woman as your mother, right? Because like, if you accept your conditionings as a child, that's what you know, right?
If you like the connection between your parents, you would like the same connection with your wife.
Yeah, that's the family as a whole. If that's what you've seen. If you've seen abuse, maybe you'll be attracted to abuse to create the same family. If you've seen love, maybe the same. But to select a wife like your mother, I think it has something to do there, as in your conditioning. And if you're not a person that is awake and alert and present, to select something that touches you as a human, beautiful being, not because it looks like your mother or grandmother or auntie or whatever, or somebody you like from TV, but somebody that makes you feel thick. That's one thing. And the other question was, how do we select a wife, right? That was the other question. And I believe, I will repeat myself just a little bit, but I think that we select a person with the hope to make us feel happy, right? I said that already, right?
Yes.
And through our conditionings as we grow up, we have an image for that person, right? Right? As a man, right? We're talking the ego talks. Okay, I want her to be, for example, blonde or tall or skinny or more round, whatever the type of girl. And these are conditions that I accepted. I was not born with those conditions. So that is very much conditioning in beliefs, and the ego is made of beliefs. So I will be attracting that kind of a woman from outside, right? From the universe, to bring as an experience to me. So between wanting somebody to make me feel good or to make me happy, combined with the conditions that I believe what that woman should look like, that's what I will attract as a woman next to me. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I have a last question.
So yeah, so it's just to finish it, it's a combination of things, but if you're not awake, if you're following the ego, it's all going to be conditioned, the choice.
And like in the last 2-3 minutes, can you say what actually is marriage?
Okay, so outside of the ego point of view,
yes,
we discussed how wrongly it walks into or looks at the marriage, and why. Can I also say that this is why there's so many failed marriages, and I had one, right? All the things that I described, because we look and we get into one from an ego point of view, with all the problems that we described, not to repeat myself. And when you enter in a relationship or marriage like that, it's bound to either 1, fail, 2, be miserable if you're gonna stay in it, and 3, fail miserably at the end, right? So there's no good options. Marriage is a union between two living, beautiful beings that are wanting to share experiences on earth together, okay? She is not meant to make me happy, because from ego, like we're talking about from man's point of view, and I am not supposed to make her happy. We together make us happy. This is not the same, meaning when I wake up in the morning, I never have the attitude of my woman needs to make me happy today, meaning she needs to do this the way I want, and I don't feel good, she needs to do something to make me feel good. I never have that attitude. My attitude is, I want to be with that person today and share the day with her, whether it's, you know, we're working on something, or we're cooking something, eating, walking, watching something, making love together, whatever we're doing together, I want to do that with that person. This is the person I want to spend all my daily activities, present moment activities that I have in that day with. Not to make me happy, not to give me purpose, not to fill a gap in my life, but to share my life with. Very, very different. To share my life with. She's not giving me anything, I'm not giving her anything, meaning to fill something, a gap. But we are sharing, it's very different. We are sharing an experience together that I'm not dependent on her, she's not dependent on me. We want to be together.
Okay, and wrap it up, like last sentence to say about marriage.
Well, this is my second and last marriage. And I wouldn't even say that's my hope, because I don't believe in hope. Hope, we should throw hope out of the window. You live in the present moment. In the present moment, there's no hope. There's only being, right? And I've learned a few things from my first marriage and now from my second marriage. They're very different because they're from very different point of views. First was, like I described, entering from an ego point of view. Second was entering from non-ego, or as least as I can possibly be, right? Without an ego, but from a love. And that's why where we talk with Laura about the one bubble concept, right? To prove that this is our goal. So choose your partner, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a marriage, because you want to share your time with them. Not that they give you something or you give them something. You want to be together with them. That's it. Thank you, Lababa, for this beautiful topic. And you, our favorite watchers, bubbly watchers, subscribe. And remember, give us a topic so we can mention you. We will mention you and bring your topic up to life. Until next time, and until then, don't struggle. Bye-bye.